I'm just going to drive up against the wall and check the sensors. They'll come up on your main screen. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. And to check the front camera, you can press that and make sure you've got the front camera working. So remove the negative battery terminal. So remove the number plate. So we're going to pull off the top radiator cover, which is 13 plastic screws. You can leave these 2 in. Remove the plastic bumper center, which has 11 clips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 3 underneath, 9, 10, 11. Now I've got the 11 clips out, I'm going to grab the driver's side and pull it out. Then over on the passenger side, we're going to unplug this sensor harness, and that's the center out. To remove the grille, we've got 1, 2, 3 bolts in the bottom and 2 in the top, up here, 1 each side. Once the 5 bolts are removed, just grab one side and pull it out of the headlight. So we're going to unplug the main bumper wiring loom, the camera, the water washer, these have got to come off the body so that when we pull a bumper off, it comes with a bumper. So it's free from the body. So to remove the main bumper now, we've got 8 bolts, 4 each side, 1, 2, 3, 4, which you can get from the front. So we're going to remove the genuine bash plate. It's got 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll fully remove the front ones, we'll just loosen the back ones and we can pull it out. So now we're going to pull out the plastic intercooler shroud. It has 4 bolts, 2 at the top and 2 below. 8mm long handle ratchet spanners to go for the top 2. If you're going to be fitting a RUNVA 11XP winch, we need to trim this plastic shroud we've just pulled out. So where to trim it is the change of direction here. So through this line here and down each side. So now we're going to remove the recovery side bolts. There's one each side. And they can go in the bin. So now we've got the captive nut holder to remove. There's one on each side. Use a cold chisel in the bottom corner and I'm going to knock it out. We'll also remove and discard these captive nuts. There's a plastic screw on each side of the chassis rail. One screw, that thing. We don't reuse them, they can go in the bin. So now we're going to install the chassis bracing. We're just going to do the passenger side first. So we do have two different components here. One's got a welded spacer and the other one's got washers. So this welded longer spacer goes on the outside. And then the one with the two washers goes on the inside. Now we'll install all the bolts loosely and we'll start with the rear bolt. It's a 130mm long. Goes through the outside, through the chassis and then through the inside. Put a washer and a nut on there. Getting the other longer 130 bolt and the spacer. We'll install that into the top hole. The spacer goes above the chassis between the two plates. And we'll put a washer and nut on. We have two more bolts, one's a 40mm and one's 55. The shorter bolt, the 40mm, goes on the inside of the chassis. There. And then the longer 55 goes on the outside. Now we've got to put a washer and nut on each one of those. It's important to make sure you install all the bolts loosely before tightening any. Now if you have a look in your bolt kit, you'll notice two black bolts. We're just going to use these to line up the chassis mounts while we tighten them, and then we're going to undo them and we'll go and then do the other side and then we'll throw them out when we're finished. The one in the bottom hole on each side. Just finger tight. At the top of the mount, we're going to clamp it with whatever clamps you got, just to hold it back against the front plate. Now we've clamped that, we're going to tighten these slightly. So everything's pulled forwards against this OEM front chassis mount. And now we're going to proceed to tighten the 4 bolts that we've just put in. No particular sequence. So we've just tightened the 4. We need to go back and check the torque settings on them. So we can remove the clamps from the top now, and we can remove the bottom line-up bolts. And now we can proceed to checking with a torque wrench. So once we've torqued up this side, we just want to check and make sure we've got some clearance between this bolt and the intercooler. So far we haven't come across any that are any closer than 6mm, so as long as you've got some clearance there. Now that this side's complete, we're just doing exactly the same and put in the driver's side bracing and move on. So now we're going to reinstall the plastic intercooler shroud. Remembering we've trimmed this because we're putting a winch in, but if you don't put a winch in, you don't need to trim it. It's got its 4 bolts, how it come out, is how it goes back in. Check that. So now we're going to start by putting the 2-pin Deutsch plug on, which you're going to find these 2 wires here. We'll trim those back. Pin 1 is going to be all yellow. Pin 2 is your yellow and black, predominantly black for your earth. So now we're going to do the 3-pin Deutsch plug, which is these wires here. So need to release those. Undo this tape. Cut that off. So we've got 3, we'll trim them. So on the 3-pin, pin A is green with a brown stripe. B is light purple with a green stripe, and C will be blue with a brown stripe. I'm going to trim a bit of this excess sheath off to the back of the Deutsch plug, and then I'll tape that up. A little bit of electrical tape. So that's the 2-pin and a 3-pin done. Remove the battery holder. So in your kit there'll be 3 harnesses we supply. The first one we're going to install will be the main engine bay harness, which you can identify by the relays. It won't be white, it'll all be black. We've just taped this one up so you can see how it goes in the car. So I'll take the relays that way. The fuse holder can sit on the engine, and that leaves us with 4-pin large Deutsch and a 3-pin weatherproof plug. This one's going to feed down. It's going to feed these ones through under the headlight. Out the front. It needs to be long enough to do a loop and plug back in at the same point as the main plug. Run this one down past the battery and around. Going to connect the 2-pin Deutsch plug. I'm going to cable tie these together. Plug in the 3-pin Deutsch plug. The fuses are going to locate onto the battery holder thread. There. Attach the terminal. I'm going to feed the relays underneath the earth. And then I'm going to return them . I'm going to bolt the relays at the front hole, the front relay to the front hole in the panel. The earth is just going to double back and attach to this earth terminal here. This is an XLT version, so the earth will go underneath the bolt head. On a normal Super Duty, there's a thread there, so you can use the nut to put it on. So it's important, once again, that these plugs loop around and line up. And it goes underneath through the headlight and comes back up through here, and that's where it tees off. So from the tee, this one runs down past the battery and then underneath the earth and curls back around. Then we've bolted that there using the front relay and the front hole in the panel. And then the earth just hides in behind and then loops back and comes back to your main earth. Now we're going to install the indicator loom, which you can identify by the headlight plugs we have. It'll be black. It's only taped yellow, so we can show you where it's run. So first I'm going to unplug the headlights on both sides. I find it easy to come from underneath. I'll try not to swear. Bring that one up. So on this harness, you'll notice one is longer than the other. So the longer side will go to your driver's side. The shorter one will come over to your passenger side. So we're just gonna sit it over the grille. There. Now, we're gonna start by the plug, like the other plugs, has to be has to finish with that genuine bumper plug. So there, and then we're going to start cable tying this way, and then we'll plug them in. So I've cable tied all the way through here. Now I'm going to feed the plug through here and back up here. Right, now I'm going to plug this one in. I'll drop it down and plug it back into the headlight. So repeat on the other side, back through under here. So now we're going to start working on the bull bar assembly. So we like to put them face down on a set of stands so that we can get to everything. And the bumper that come off, we've sat in the same orientation as the bull bar, so when we transfer the sensors across, they're in the same location and rotation. So we're going to take the parking sensor out of its house. There's two tabs. You separate the two tabs, and using your finger from underneath, push the sensor up. Cool. And we'll cut the zip ties holding it in. We have some other retaining clips. These retainers we don't use, so we can untape them. So now we're going to pull out the retainers. Just got to push in the clip each side and they'll drop forwards. We're going to keep them in the same rotation. This is the centre left, so we'll go and put it in the bull bar. There is notches for orientation which are also in the bull bar, but we like to just do one at a time. So that now we're going to remove the main safety tech harness out of the bumper. And first I'll put a bit of tape on the front of the camera because it's easy to scratch it while you're putting it into the bull bar. I'm going to unplug the parking sensors, the left and right ones in the corner of the wings. I don't bother disassembling the bumper, I just reach in. I'm doing the same as other clips. Now we're going to unclip the fog light. Left, right. Now we're going to undo the radar. It's got 3 bolts, your 10mm ratchet spanner. Be careful not to drop this. We've got to keep these bolts as well because we're going to use them on when we bolt the radar back into the bull bar. Then we're going to undo the camera bolts. There's 2 of them. We're going to keep these as well and reuse them to bolt the camera back into the bull bar. So now we're going to get the harness out by removing a lot of zip ties. You'll also notice I've kept everything plugged together because we can reinstall it into the bull bar all together. I'm going to cut this cable tie up near the camera. So use that. Now, whole lot should come out. We'll put it on the bench. Now we're going to remove the sensor retainers and put them into the bar. Once again, same rotation and orientation and position. So we laid the harness out on the table and we're going to start from this point. This is what plugged into the car at the top of the radiator. So if we come down, we want to keep all these clips because we'll clip them back into the car. When we get to this T section and go this way to the parking sensor, we want to remove these bits of plastic. And then from the T section that way, we're going to remove this plastic retainer, this one. We'll leave all the ones that are holding the water washer for the camera. Got coming around further, we've got that one can go, and these two. So now we've cleaned everything off. So we've, like I said before, we've kept all the clips to the T section. Everything's sort of retaining wise has been removed off there. There's a couple have been removed out here. We've kept the one holding the washer. Then around this side, it's pretty clean. And now we're going to tape the fog light wire to the sensor. So we're just going to tape that up on both sides, left and right. So the vents are going to point inwards from each side. You'll notice there's a notch in this one and not in this side, so the notch goes towards the centre so we can get the radar through later. And then we'll put the bolts at the bottom up, flat washer and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll tighten them up. So now we're going to start putting the main harness in by the camera first with the 2 bolts that it come out with. So it will go through this hole and then drop down, and we'll tighten that up with a spanner. So if you're installing a winch, now's the time to put on the control box. In the bolt kit there'll be 6 M5 bolts, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that'll be these holes here. So we'll end up feeding the cables through, butting the box up and bolting it in from the back. So I'm going to feed these 2 through here and these 3 through this side. Bolt it in. So now I've bolted this in with the 6 bolts underneath, and I've run the 2 cables one side of this and the other 2 plus the little earth the other side. Now I'm going to tuck that over. I'm going to get rid of the radar. And I'm going to get rid of these cables as well over the top. This gives us good access to get the winch motor in. So now I'm going to pull a little bit of rope out. So I'll put the clutch in neutral and 6 inches. Put that back in gear. The 4 nuts that will go in the winch feet, they can go in now. And then we'll go and put it on the bull bar. I've got a couple of blocks that I put there just to hold it up while I put the earth on. So the earth is at the bottom there. First we're going to grab this little earth we fed through from the control box and we'll put it on first. And then we'll put the other earth on from my side, the big one. And then we'll tighten that up. So this is where we've put the earth, the large earth coming down the bottom. This is bottom of the bull bar, bottom of the winch. So it will end up running along there. The small one's gone out and back around to the control box. Now we can drop it into the bull bar. So we just check and make sure our feet nuts of the winch are still in the 4 slots. And we've got to feed this rope through the fair lead slot. Down there. Pull the cables up so they're out of the road. So now we're going to bolt the winch in using the rest of the bolts in the winch bolt pack. So split washer, flat washer, there'll be 4 of these, and we're going to put some anti-seize on them as well. Then we'll go and insert them from the front of the bull bar into the winch. I'll just feed that rope out there. That'll be fine. I've crossed these wires over. It is hard to do it, but you can push it down and switch them over so that we'll get that red one over there. And then the one with the conduit on it, we're going to feed through. There's a circular hole in the bumper about 75mm diameter for wiring to travel through, so we're going to feed it through that. And drop it out the bottom. Then we'll do the same with the earth. sit the earth up there. So that part. And now we connect, colour for colour, we connect these three. So we're going to run them around and just connect them and tighten them. So now we've got all these tight, and we're going to put the covers on. Sensor harness back in, so the plug will go to the left or the passenger side, and we'll clip that one in. We'll just push down. So now I'm going to feed the main harness and left-hand parking sensor through the cable cutout in the bumper. And I'll keep pulling that through. I'll sit that up there, and I'll get the other sensor, feed it through the other side. The center parking sensors back into the main harness. We'll clip in the outer parking sensors. So now we're going to bolt the radar in, so we'll bring it over. We've actually got to remove this, we don't want that there. We'll keep this one, we'll take this one out. Bye-bye. So we're going to feed it through those cutouts down there using the original bolts. One in the top, and the nuts we've supplied. There's 3 to go in total. 1 in the top, 2 in the bottom. And we'll tighten them up. If installing spotlights, we'll put those in now. Now we're going to install the ATD supplied bull bar harness. So we've got the large 4-pin Deutsch, the small 4-pin and the 3-pin weatherproof plug. They're the ones that are back up with the main harness. This will go to our light bar and indicator, and the remaining will be the opposite side indicator and light bar and the 2 center spotlights. So we'll grab those 4 and feed them through the cable cutout. Then we'll plug in the indicator on this side. and the light bar. So the two 4-pin for the spotlight, we'll just leave them there, and then the indicator and light bar for the driver's side. We'll feed them through the cable cutout in the bull bar. And we'll plug those in. So the indicator. And light bar. Now we're going to plug the spotlights in. It's important, we've pinned these wires for steady Type X Pro lights. If you're using other lights, you will need to check the orientation of the wiring. You might need to repin it to suit. Now we're going to tidy up and zip tie in our mess we've just created in here. So the first, before we haven't zip tied anything inside here yet, the first thing we need to do is make sure that genuine harness we have from this hole to here, we at least need 130 mil so it fits back in the car. So we've got that. So we'll leave that there. And then the ATD harness needs to be able to reach to the same length of that main plug. We can secure all that with 130 plus mil there, and it will fit the car. So there isn't any wrong or right way to secure all the wiring. They're just, when you zip tie it, you don't want tension, you don't want anything pulling really stiffly. There's a lot of places to zip tie. In the wings, we've got the light bar bracket and there's cable tie points in each corner. I'll show you one that I've got here. You've got 4 points you can attach to on the light bars on each side. Then in the center of the bumper, there's also some spots along the bottom face of the bumper. You'll see the cutouts. We've used one over here. So now we're ready to put the bull bar onto the vehicle. We're going to get the looms here and we're going to put them down out of the road through the front of the bull bar. And we've got our earth and winch power that we've got down the bottom. We're going to pick the bull bar up from the top tube in the center. We're going to use our gantry crane because we've got one, otherwise you could use a forklift, or you can't really lift it on by hand, it weighs too much. I've got my crane scales here, we'll lift it up and see what it weighs. So it's 150 kilograms with the RUNVA winch and the spotlights and everything to go on. So yeah, a bit too heavy to lift on. So now we're going to bolt the bull bar to the car. We've got 6 bolts each side. The orientation does matter, so the furthest outside ones on each side of the chassis, the threads are going to point backwards, and then the ones on the inside of the chassis, the threads are going to point forwards. So the flat washer, normal flat washers on the head of the bolt, and then once it's installed through the mount, we'll put on a double Nord lock washer and a nylock nut. Now we've got all of the bull bar mounting bolts inserted loosely. We're going to proceed to tighten them up. Now we're going to reconnect all the plugs back above the radiator. So we'll start with the genuine main one we need to put back in, and we'll clip it back into the vehicle how it was pulled out. Plug in that one, main one. We'll plug in the camera, plug in the washing line, and we'll grab the owl harness. Now they're all plugged in, I'm just going to put some zip ties in here to secure these two harnesses together. When you're doing that, don't go around the washer fluid. You'll crimp it and it won't work, so make sure you leave it out of the zip tie. Put a zip tie there, there and there. So now we're gonna, if you're installing a winch, we're now gonna feed the main power cable up through behind the headlight to the battery. So now I've pulled it up past the battery, underneath the earth, and I've got it here. I'm just gonna leave it relaxing there. So now we're going to attach the winch main power to the isolator, and then once we've attached that, the isolator lives on the threaded rod for the battery securer, and then we need to attach this power cable onto our harness terminal that we've already put in earlier. So we're going to pull that off and bolt that on there as well as our other harness power cable. So we've got the winch connected back to our terminal we put on earlier. Cool. So now we're going to feed the earth up behind the headlight. Now we've got the earth, the winch earth up here. We're simply going to go around to the earth terminal there. So we'll undo this and bolt that in. So we've removed the earth bolt. We always want to keep the forward genuine earth on the body. So then we're going to grab our winch, and this is the one we put in earlier, so we'll go through it first, then our winch, and then the forward one, and then into the body. Just going to jump back under the wing here, and we've got the earth and power of the winch. We're going to just cable tie it up. There's a nice spot here, there's a slot I'm just going to put a couple of cable ties there. We're now going to reinstall the battery holder that we pulled out earlier. This front nut secures the winch isolator and the fuses we put in earlier. And we're going to reattach the negative terminal of the battery. Start the car, check our indicators, left and right. DRLs is auxiliary switch 1. Main spotlights will be AUX 5 and AUX 6 is your light bars. Press the camera back in the main screen of the dash, make sure it's operating. Yes, it's operating. And we're gonna muck around with the winch if you've installed one. It's in the winch box. There'll be some isolator keys, a wireless remote, and a hook, an expedition hook we're gonna have to attach to the winch. So we're going to put the isolator in to give the winch power. We'll turn the winch on. We'll just hold that down for how many seconds. Winch, we use this hook because you can pull it back and it won't be dangling down in front of the radar or anything. So. Now we're going to turn the winch off, take the isolator out. You only want power to it when you're using it. Now we're going to reinstall the front grille. We can't get the center bolt in the bottom, so there's 2 big ones and 3 smaller ones. So the 2 big ones are the top ones and the 3 small ones are for the bottom, but we're not going to get the center one, we're just going to get a left and right in the bottom. So the larger one's in the top. 1, 2. Put the radiator top cover back in. Reattach it with the plastic screw clips. You just push them in. And we're going to put the genuine bash plate back in. The bolts for our bash plate, we've put them into your bull bar. So we'll just knock those out. There's 4 of them to each side. And then we're going to put in the bash plate we supply. flat, and then it folds down at the front, and then it's got 2 folds in the back. So we'll just check that with a torque wrench with our torque settings that are on our checklist. Now we're going to check to make sure the radar's perpendicular to level ground, so the car's in the workshop, it's all level. We're going to pull out the 2 black plastic clips down the bottom here. 2 clips out, and then we're going to pull the top out. Remove that cover. Here's our radar. We're just going to check it for level. Like I said, the workshop's level, and we need this at 0 degrees. So we're going to adjust. Zero. Then we'll put our cover back on, and our 2 clips back in. You can fit a standard size plate, which will come down here if you're not putting a winch in, but if you're putting a winch, it must be a slimline front number plate. These holes are threaded, so there's no nut on the back. Now we're just going to check that the parking sensors are all working again. So we've got to start the car and drive it at an object without hitting it. So we can see the center two are getting a reading. We need to go a bit closer. Right, we need to, just going to change the angle a bit. There we go, we've got that one working. Yep, and we've got this other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the camera on the front's working. We're going to pull the genuine side steps off left and right. There's 6 bolts on each side, 13mm socket. So we'll pull the steps off, and then we're going to reinstall the bolts so that the sill doesn't fill up full of mud and dirt and water. So now we drop this side step off, we're going to put these bolts back in, and then we'll go and do the other side. Now we're going to install the front side rail mounts to the chassis. We're on the passenger side here at the moment, so that's where the chassis runs, and then they point forwards. You've got 2 spacers per side, 4 bolts with Nord locks, so we'll put some anti-seize on these 4. Cool. We're using this threaded hole and this threaded hole and up here, so we're going to move this harness out of the road, pop it out of the chassis. And we can bring our mount in and do it up, and we'll cable tie this back onto the top section of the mount. I'm going to start at the front bolt. It requires a spacer, and we need to put a spacer here when we get the second bolt in. So get our spacer and put it on the now we've got them all finger tight. We're just going to slightly tighten them all to pull it up and in at the same time.
So now we're going to cable tie this harness running along the top to the top of the mount there. So 2 cable ties. Once you've done that, we're just going to repeat the same process on the driver's side. So now we're going to install the passenger side rear side rail mount. So this bracket's going to point forwards to the front of the car, so you've got the right side. We'll put some anti-seize on the 2 bolts that have got the Nord lock washer. The one with the nylock, we won't worry about it. So that hole lines up with the big slot, but we'll come back to that and we'll put the top 2 bolts in first. We're going to tighten these up finger tight so we've still got movement. So now we've got the top 2 in finger tight. We're going to put this bottom bolt in. So it has a large stainless laser cut washer, an oval cut washer, and then a standard zinc washer. So we'll put the bolt and washer from the top. Then we've got to get our oval washer to fill this slot. So it's going to live in here, so it takes all the play out of it. Then we've got our big laser cut washer. And then we've got our nylock. We're going to tighten that enough so it holds the oval washer in, but is still loose enough to move about. So our oval washer's disappeared in there, which is what we want. Loosen it a little bit, so it's got a little bit of play. We'll torque this up later on once we've installed the rail to it and that we can get a slight bit of adjustment out of it. So now we've got the front side rail mount all tightened and torqued up with the face forwards, and the rear one tight enough that it's not too loose but it's still movable, and the face is on the rear side. So now we're going to put the bolts at the front for the side rail first. So there's 2 each side of everything. So a cone washer, laser cut washer, anti-seize. We're going to do that to all 4. So we just put 2 on each side. When we got our rail, they're easily accessible. And now we've got the rail sitting in place. We're going to put the rubber washer in between the bull bar and the rail. And insert the bolt and thread it in. Times 2, 1 at the bottom. Now we're going to slide it forward and we're going to close this gap. So we like 1 to 2 mils good. And we'll tighten it up slightly. Check our gap, we've just got a nice 1 to 2 mil gap there. So now we'll go to our checklist, find out the torque, and we'll torque it up. So at the front and the back of the side step, to mount it, we will need 4 washers, 2 nylocks and 2 bolts and 1 spacer. So that's 1 each side at the front and each side at the back. Now we're going to put the spacer in first. If it can handle 2 spacers, we grab the back spacer and we bring it to the front.
and we don't put a spacer in the back, but if we can only fit one at the front, we put one in the back. So now we're going to put the spacer in between the side step and its mount. And we'll put a bolt in pointing backwards, from the front backwards, through. Washers on the back. And the nuts. So we put the spacer in there and we put the bolts through and we got the nuts on. Now we're going to come to the back mount and install the bolts loosely. Because we couldn't fit two spacers in the front, the remaining spacer will come to the back and it will go in. And we'll insert the bolt with the thread towards the back of the car. Flat washer, nylock. So now we're going to come back to the front mount. And I'm going to jack it up slightly. I've got a 20mm gap here now. I want about a 15mm gap. So I'm happy there. I sort of just fit my finger in there. So now we're just looking to see if we can achieve around a 10mm gap from the flare to the side rail. Up here at 10, 8mm. And then once we've got that, then we're going to come under and tighten this. So just the front mount for now we'll tighten. I'm not lining this up as yet, I'm just going to tighten the rear mount to the side rail. What this is going to do is it's going to align the bracket to the chassis. Now we're going to get underneath and we're going to tighten up the mount to the chassis, which is the two at the top, and the bolt here with our oval washer. So we'll tighten those three. Now I'm going to slightly loosen the rear mount to the side rail, which is going to allow me to move this around now. So I've just moved it up. I can move it up. So I want to make a parallel gap to the sill. And then I want to have a look down here. And I can move the back in and out to line it up. So I'm going to go in a little bit. Keep springing back out, so I'll tighten it up a little bit. Yep, I'm happy with that alignment. I'm happy with the height, so now I'm going to torque this up. So now we've got all the spacing right and everything's tight back there. We're going to return back here and re-tension these because the rubber seems to shrink a little bit, so we're just going to recheck it.